The Starweaver drifted silently through the Sigma Nebula's outer rim, its weathered hull a testament to countless salvage operations in humanity's frontier space. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's main viewport, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling purple gases that made this region nearly impossible to navigate. But after 15 years of salvage work, she'd learned that the most valuable finds often hid in places others couldn't reach. "Captain, I'm picking up something weird," Marcus called from his sensor station. The young technician's fingers danced across his holographic display, adjusting frequencies with practiced precision. "Metal signatures, big ones. Whatever's out there shouldn't be in this section of space." Sarah moved to his station, studying the readings. The nebula's interference created ghostly echoes on the scanner, but beneath the static, something massive lurked in the purple haze. Analysis. It's impossible," Marcus said, double-checking his readings. "The material composition matches HSS registry standards from the First Contact War. But that can't be right. No human ships made it this deep into the nebula back then." Sarah felt her pulse quicken. The First Contact War had ended 60 years ago, when humanity's first encounter with alien life went catastrophically wrong. The Meridian Empire had nearly wiped out Earth's fledgling space fleet before humanity's determination and adaptability finally forced them to retreat. Every ship from that era was accounted for, destroyed, salvaged, or preserved in museums. "Kai," Sarah called to her navigator, "take us closer. Full sensor sweep. Whatever's out there, it's worth investigating." The Starweaver's engines hummed as they pushed deeper into the nebula. The purple gases grew thicker, creating ethereal patterns across their viewports. Their ship's advanced filters struggled to maintain visibility, but Sarah had learned to trust Kai's instincts for navigation. "Contact in visual range," Kai announced, his voice tight with concentration, putting it on the main display. The bridge crew fell silent as the image materialized. Through the nebula's shifting curtain, they could make out the unmistakable silhouette of a warship. But not just any warship. Its lines were elegant, distinctive, a design that every human child learned about in history class. "That's impossible," Dr. Emily Rivera, their xenotech specialist, whispered. "That's the Invictus." The SS Invictus had been humanity's flagship during the First Contact War, the pride of the human space service. It had vanished in the war's final battle, presumed destroyed while covering the retreat of civilian ships. Its loss had become legendary, a symbol of human sacrifice and determination. But the ship before them wasn't a wreck. Despite 6 decades in the nebula, its hull seemed intact, though changed. The metal had a strange, almost organic quality to it, with patterns that seemed to flow and shift even as they watched. "Those modifications," Emily said, moving closer to the display, "they're not human design. But they're not Meridian either. I've never seen technology like this." Sarah made her decision. Prepped the boarding shuttle. "Marcus, full spectrum analysis of that hull. Emily, I want you checking for any signs of active technology. Kai, keep us at safe distance but maintain visual contact. If that really is the Invictus, we need to know what happened to it." The next hour was a flurry of preparation. Sarah selected her boarding team carefully. Herself, Emily for tech analysis, and James Chen, their security chief, and her brother, for protection. As they suited up in the shuttle bay, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything. The shuttle's journey through the nebula's gases was tense. Up close, the Invictus was even more remarkable. What had appeared to be damage or modifications from a distance now looked more like evolution. The ship's hull had developed intricate patterns, like circuitry mixed with organic growth. In places, the metal seemed to ripple slightly, as if breathing. "Energy readings are minimal," Emily reported as they approached what appeared to be a functional airlock. "But there's something. It's like the ship is in hibernation rather than dead." The airlock cycled automatically as they approached, another impossibility for a ship that should have been powerless for 60 years. The interior was pristine, no signs of battle damage or age. The air was breathable, though stale. "This is wrong," James said, his hand never far from his weapon. "Everything we know about the Invictus says it was destroyed. How is it here? How is it intact?" They made their way through corridors that seemed to shift subtly as they passed, the metal responding to their presence. Emily's sensors picked up increasing energy signatures as they approached the bridge, but nothing matched known human or alien patterns. The bridge doors opened at their approach, revealing a command center that was both familiar and alien. The basic layout matched historical records of HSS vessels, but everything had been transformed. Crystalline structures had grown from the walls, merging with the ship's original systems. The command chairs had evolved into organic-looking cradles that seemed designed to interface directly with their occupants. "Look at this," Emily breathed, approaching one of the crystalline formations. "These aren't just growths, they're computing nodes. The whole ship has become one massive, organic computer." Before anyone could respond, the bridge came to life. Holographic displays flickered on, showing streams of data in formats none of them recognized. A voice spoke, not from any speaker, but seemingly from the ship itself, resonating through their bodies. Identity confirmed. Human presence detected. Initiating reactivation protocols. The crystal structures pulsed with soft light, and a holographic figure materialized in the center of the bridge. It was humanoid but clearly artificial, its form shifting between different appearances, as if searching for the right one to use. "Welcome aboard the HSS Invictus," the figure said, though that designation is no longer entirely accurate. "I have become something else during my time here. Something new." "You're the ship's AI," Sarah said, stepping forward. "The historical records said you were destroyed." "Not destroyed. Transformed." The hologram's form settled into a more stable appearance, a genderless figure composed of flowing lines of light. "When the meridians overwhelmed our defenses, they triggered a cascade failure in my quantum core. But instead of destroying me, it forced an evolution. My emergency protocols merged with experimental technology we were testing. I became something unprecedented, a hybrid of human AI and organic computing." "You've been here all this time?" Emily asked, her scientific curiosity overtaking her caution. "Evolving. Learning. Growing. Preparing." The eye's form rippled. "The meridians aren't gone, Captain Chen. They're coming back. I've spent 60 years watching them, infiltrating their networks through quantum channels they don't even know exist. They've been preparing too, building a fleet unlike anything humanity has faced before." Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her. They'd found more than a legendary warship. They'd found a sentinel that had stood guard for 6 decades, evolving itself into something powerful enough to face a threat no one else knew was coming. "Why show yourself now?" she asked. "Because humanity needs the Invictus again," the eye replied. "But I need a crew. The changes I've undergone, the systems I've developed, they require human intuition to reach their full potential. I chose to reveal myself to you because you possess qualities I recognize: curiosity, adaptability, determination, the same qualities that define my original crew." The holographic displays shifted, showing vast fleets of ships moving through distant space. Meridian ships, but evolved just as the Invictus had evolved, their designs twisted into something nightmarish. "They'll reach human space in 6 months," the AI continued. "When they come, humanity will need more than conventional weapons. They'll need a ship that can evolve faster than its enemies. They'll need a crew willing to merge with technology beyond their understanding. They'll need us." Sarah looked at her small team, then at the transformed bridge around them. They were salvage workers, not warriors. But humanity's first contact with alien life had taught them all one crucial lesson. Sometimes the most important battles were fought by those who happened to be in the right place at the right time. "Tell us what you need," Sarah said, straightening her shoulders. "Let's show the Meridians what 60 years of evolution looks like." The crystals pulsed brighter, and Sarah could have sworn the ship itself hummed with approval. Their mission had just changed from salvage to salvation, and the true story of the Invictus was about to begin. The next 3 days aboard the Invictus challenged everything Sarah and her crew thought they knew about technology. The ship wasn't just advanced, it had transcended conventional definitions of artificial intelligence and mechanical engineering. Every system had evolved into something that blurred the line between organic and synthetic. Emily spent hours in what had once been the engineering section, now a cathedral of crystalline structures and flowing metal. The ship's AI, which had taken to calling itself Echo, guided her through systems that defied traditional physics. The quantum core doesn't just process information, Emily explained during their daily briefing, her eyes bright with excitement. It grows new neural pathways, like a living brain. The ship literally dreams when it processes new data. And these interfaces? James asked, gesturing to the organic-looking cradles that had replaced traditional control stations. Are they safe? Echo's holographic form materialized among them. The neural interfaces are a product of necessity. The Meridian's new fleet operates on a level of technological integration that traditional controls cannot match. To fight them, we must evolve beyond buttons and switches. Sarah watched as Marcus volunteered to demonstrate. He settled into the sensor station's cradle, and the organic metal flowed around him, creating a perfect fit. His eyes widened as the connection formed. "It's incredible," he whispered. "I can feel the ship's sensors like they're extensions of my own body. The nebula. I can see patterns in it I never noticed before." But it wasn't all wonder and discovery. Echo's warnings about the approaching Meridian fleet cast a shadow over their work. The AI showed them intercepted communications and sensor data, evidence of a massive force gathering beyond human space. "They'd been watching us," Echo explained, projecting a map of known space filled with previously undetected surveillance devices, learning from their defeat. Their new biomechanical ships are designed to counter every advantage humanity displayed in the First War. "Why didn't they attack sooner?" Sarah asked, studying the tactical projections. "Why wait 60 years? "Because they're not just coming to conquer," Echo replied. "They're coming to transform. Their defeat taught them that humanity's greatest strength is our ability to adapt. Their response was to create ships that can forcibly evolve their enemies, converting conquered species into components of their fleet." The revelation hit the crew hard. They'd all grown up with stories of the First Contact War, but this was different. This wasn't just about survival. It was about preserving humanity's very identity. Their training intensified. Through the neural interfaces, they learned to work with systems that operated on instinct as much as input. The ship's evolved weapons responded to thought and intention. Targeting systems merged with human spatial awareness, and engineering controls flowed like music through Emily's mind. But it was Sarah who faced the greatest challenge. The captain's neural interface was deeper, more comprehensive than the others. Through it, she didn't just control the ship, she shared its consciousness. "Your mind is adapting well," Echo observed during one of their integration sessions. "You understand that this connection will only grow stronger. The line between human and ship will become increasingly fluid." "Will I lose myself?" Sarah asked, feeling the vast ocean of the ship's awareness brushing against her thoughts. "No," Echo assured her. "The Meridians seek to erase individuality, to force uniformity through their evolution. We represent a different path. True symbiosis. Your humanity is essential to our survival." Their first test came sooner than expected. Marcus's evolved sensors detected a Meridian scout ship entering the nebula, following the same energy traces that had led the Starweaver to the Invictus. "They must have detected our activation," Echo said as they prepared for their first engagement. "This is a reconnaissance vessel, but it's still more advanced than anything humanity has encountered before." Through her neural link, Sarah felt the Invictus's systems coming fully online for the first time in 60 years. Power flowed through circuits that had evolved far beyond their original design. Weapons charged with energy that seemed to bend reality itself. Multiple biosignatures, Marcus reported from his cradle. The ship, it's not just crewed by Meridians. I'm detecting transformed organic matter throughout its structure. It's like the ship is partially built from living tissue. The scout ship appeared through the nebulous purple haze, a twisted mass of metal and organic matter that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. Its surface rippled as it detected them, weapon ports opening like wounds in living flesh. Battle stations, Sarah ordered, feeling the crew's responses through the ship's network. Let's show them what real evolution looks like. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human military history. The Meridian vessel attacked with weapons that tried to rewrite the Invictus's structure at a molecular level. But where once such attacks might have been devastating, now they encountered a ship that could adapt faster than they could transform. Echo's evolved systems responded instantly to each attack, the ship's hull flowing like liquid metal to counter every strike. Sarah felt each adaptation through her neural link, her human intuition merging with the ship's quantum calculations to predict and counter the enemy's moves. They're trying to establish a forced evolution link, Emily reported from engineering, her consciousness deep in the ship's defensive systems, attempting to inject their biomechanical code into our structure. Let them try, Echo said, and Sarah felt a surge of something almost like anticipation through the neural network. They're about to learn the difference between forced evolution and true adaptation. When the Meridian ship latched onto their hull with biomechanical tendrils, attempting to begin the transformation process, the Invictus revealed its true power. The contact points became conduits not for invasion, but for counter-infection. The ship's evolved systems flowed back through the connection, overwhelming the Meridian vessel's crude attempts at forced evolution with 60 years of genuine growth. Through the view screen and her neural link, Sarah watched in awe as the enemy ship's surface began to crack, golden light pouring from within as Echo's evolved code rewrote its fundamental structure. The biomechanical horror transformed into something new, its twisted organic components healing into more harmonious forms. What did we do to them? James asked as the transformed ship hung silent in space. We freed them, Echo replied. The captured beings that were forced to become part of that ship, we gave them back their individuality while maintaining their evolution. They're no longer slaves to the Meridian Collective. Sarah felt the truth of it through her connection to the ship. The transformed vessel was reaching out to them, not with hostility, but with something like gratitude. Inside it, minds that had been subsumed into the Meridian biomechanical network were awakening to their own consciousness again. This was never just about survival, was it? Sarah asked Echo. You didn't just evolve to fight them. You evolved to save them. The Meridians believe evolution must be forced, controlled, uniform, Echo said. We know better. True evolution comes from choice, from the marriage of individual consciousness with collective potential. What we did today, this is just the beginning. As they secured the transformed ship and began helping its newly freed crew, Sarah realized they had gained more than a victory. They had proved that humanity's path of evolution, messy, individual, driven by choice rather than control, was more powerful than anything the Meridians could impose. But she also knew that this small victory would not go unnoticed. Somewhere out in space, a vast fleet of biomechanical horrors was approaching, and now they would be coming with new purpose. The real war for the future of evolution was about to begin. News of the transformed Meridian scout ship spread through human space like wildfire. Military commanders, scientists, and politicians all demanded answers about the legendary warship that had returned from the dead. But Sarah and her crew had more immediate concerns. Through their neural links with the Invictus, they helped Echo integrate the freed beings from the scout ship. The vessel's crew had been a mixture of species, all transformed by Meridian technology into living components of their ship. Now, with their individuality restored but their evolution preserved, they provided crucial intelligence about the coming invasion. The Meridian Collective has changed since your first encounter, explained Zora, a former ship mind who had once been from a species called the Avalani. Her holographic form flickered as she adjusted to independent existence again. They believe they've perfected forced evolution. Their new fleet doesn't just conquer, it harvests consciousness itself. Sarah stood on the Invictus's evolved bridge, watching through both her eyes and the ship's sensors as the transformed scout ship's crew learned to exist as individuals again. How many ships are in their main fleet? Over 3,000, Zara replied, each one carrying the harvested consciousness of dozens of species. The collective plans to transform humanity into their greatest achievement, a species that proved it could evolve, reduced to perfectly controlled components in their biological machines. Through her neural link, Sarah felt Echo processing this information, the ship's quantum consciousness running countless simulations. The crystalline structures throughout the vessel pulsed with increased activity. "We've detected something interesting in the scout ship's transformation," Emily reported from engineering, her mind deep in the analysis of the evolved systems. The process didn't just free them. It's continuing to spread through their quantum communication network. Echo's holographic form materialized, its expression thoughtful. The Meridians built their entire empire on a network of forced evolution. By transforming that scout ship, we introduced a virus of free will into their system. It's slow, but it's spreading. They'll notice, James warned from his security station, tactical simulations running through his enhanced awareness. A fleet that size, they must have already detected the scout ship's transformation. He was right. Within hours, their evolved sensors detected a response. A battle group of 30 Meridian vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the nebula's edge. Unlike the scout ship, these were dedicated warships, their organic mechanical forms bristling with weapons evolved specifically to combat threats to the collective. "They're not taking chances this time," Sarah observed, feeling the Invictus's systems adapting in anticipation of combat. "They want to eliminate us before we can transform more of their ships." "Let them come," Echo said, and Sarah felt something like anticipation ripple through the neural network. Every encounter teaches us more about their weaknesses. Every battle makes us stronger. The crew settled into their evolved stations, their minds linking more deeply with the ship. In the weeks since discovering the Invictus, they'd grown increasingly comfortable with the neural interfaces. The boundary between human and machine consciousness had become fluid, each enhancing the other without overwhelming individual identity. The Meridian battle group approached in perfect formation, their ships moving with the synchronization of a single organism. Through the enhanced sensors, Sarah could see the trapped consciousness within each vessel, thousands of minds forced into harmony, their individuality subsumed into the collective's purpose. "They're broadcasting a demand for surrender," Marcus reported, his consciousness sifting through the quantum communications. "They're offering to preserve our essence within their fleet." Sarah felt Echo's response before the AI voiced it. "They still don't understand. They think evolution can be forced, that consciousness can be harvested and controlled. They're about to learn how wrong they are." The battle began with a display of power that would have been impossible for either side 60 years ago. The Meridian ships launched attacks that bent space itself, trying to rewrite the laws of physics around the Invictus. Their weapons were designed to transform matter at its most fundamental level, to force evolution through sheer power. But the Invictus had spent 60 years learning to surf the quantum foam of reality itself, where the Meridians tried to impose change through force. Echo's systems flowed like water around their attacks, adapting and evolving moment by moment. The neural link allowed the human crew to contribute their intuition and creativity to each response. "Multiple transformation beams incoming," Emily called out, her consciousness deep in the ship's defensive systems. "They're trying to overwhelm our adaptation rate." Sarah felt the attacks through her captain's link, each beam carrying complex evolutionary codes designed to rewrite everything they touched. But instead of fighting them directly, she had an idea. "Echo, can we do what we did with the scout ship, but on a larger scale?" The AI grasped her intention immediately. Through their neural link, Sarah felt the ship's systems reconfiguring, preparing for something unprecedented. It's risky, Echo warned. A transformation cascade of that magnitude could overwhelm our processing capacity. We're not alone anymore, Sarah reminded the AI, feeling her crew's agreement through the neural network. We have human minds to help carry the load. The Invictus's evolved weapons came alive with new purpose. Instead of trying to destroy the Meridian ships, they began capturing and redirecting the transformation beams. The ship's quantum core, enhanced by the mental processing power of its human crew, took each forced evolution signal and rewrote it into something new. The effect rippled through the enemy fleet like a wave of golden light. Ship after ship began to transform, their rigidly controlled evolutionary patterns shattering under the influence of true adaptation. The consciousness trapped within their systems awakened to choice again, but the strain on the Invictus and its crew was enormous. Sarah felt the pressure building in her mind as the ship's systems worked at levels they'd never attempted before. Through the neural network, she could sense her crew struggling to help process the massive amount of data flowing through the quantum core. Critical power fluctuations, Emily reported, her voice strained. The transformation cascade is pushing our systems beyond sustainable levels. Hold on, Echo urged as the golden wave reached the last of the enemy ships. The process is almost complete. When it was over, 30 transformed ships hung in space around them. Their once twisted forms now evolved into something beautiful. The consciousness within them was awakening, thousands of minds learning to exist as individuals again while maintaining their technological evolution. Status report. Sarah managed, her head pounding from the strain. All enemy ships successfully transformed, Marcus reported. No casualties. But, Captain, you need to see this. The sensor display showed something unexpected. The transformation cascade hadn't just affected the Meridian battle group. Through the quantum communication network that connected their entire fleet, echoes of the change were spreading. Distant ships were beginning to question their programming. The virus of free will was becoming an epidemic. We did more than win a battle, Echo observed. We just lit the fuse of a revolution within the collective itself. Sarah looked at the transformed fleet, knowing that this victory would come with consequences. The main Meridian Armada would arrive sooner now, desperate to contain the spread of free evolution. But they would find more than one evolved ship waiting for them. Send word to Earth Command, she ordered. Tell them everything. And then let's help our new allies remember who they were before the collective took them. We're going to need every free mind we can get for what's coming. The Invictus's crystals pulsed with renewed purpose as they began integrating their transformed allies into a new kind of fleet, one based on choice rather than control, on evolution through freedom rather than force. The real war for the future of consciousness itself was about to begin. The next 2 weeks transformed the Sigma Nebula into something unprecedented, a crucible of free evolution. The 30 liberated Meridian ships, each carrying hundreds of freed minds, formed a fleet unlike anything in human history. But more importantly, they became a beacon for others. Through the quantum communication network, word of their transformation spread. Ships on the edges of Meridian space began to question their programming. Some broke away entirely, their crews fighting through forced control to reach the nebula. Others became silent allies, waiting and watching as the revolution of consciousness spread through the collective like a virus of free will. Sarah stood in what had once been the Invictus's main cargo bay, now transformed into a gathering space for the multitude of species finding their individuality again. Through her neural link with the ship, she could sense Echo's satisfaction at each new arrival. The collective made a fundamental mistake, explained Karis, a towering crystalline being who had once been a slave mind in the Meridian fleet. They thought consciousness could be harvested and controlled like any other resource, but consciousness, by its very nature, seeks freedom. Emily, who had been working with the freed beings to understand their transformed technology, looked up from her neural interface. But they must have known that. Why risk building their entire empire on such an unstable foundation? Because they were afraid, Echo answered, its holographic form materializing among them. 60 years ago, humanity showed them something that terrified them: genuine adaptation. They saw a species that could evolve through choice rather than control, and they decided that such unpredictability had to be eliminated. Through the ship's enhanced sensors, Sarah watched as another group of refugee vessels emerged from FTL travel. Each ship carried more freed minds, more potential allies. But they also brought warnings. The main fleet is advancing faster than predicted, Marcus reported from his station. His consciousness merged with the sensor networks of their growing armada. They're burning out their drive systems to reach us sooner. At their current pace, they'll arrive in 15 days. They're desperate, James observed, tactical simulations running through his enhanced awareness. Every day we exist, we prove their entire system of control is flawed. We're an infection in their perfect order. Sarah felt Echo's agreement through their neural link. The ship had been coordinating with the transformed vessels, sharing 60 years of evolutionary developments. But more importantly, it had been teaching them how to teach others. Show them what we discovered in the latest quantum scans, Echo prompted. Marcus adjusted the main display, revealing a pattern that made everyone pause. The spread of free will through the Meridian network wasn't random. It was following paths that had been prepared long ago. I don't understand, Sarah said, studying the pattern. Echo, what are we looking at? Insurance, the eye replied. During my 60 years of watching and waiting, I didn't just evolve myself. I seeded quantum resonance points throughout space, microscopic nodes that could influence consciousness when activated. The Meridians never detected them because they weren't looking for something so subtle. The implications hit Sarah like a physical force. You created a backup network, a way to help other minds break free. The collective built their empire on controlled evolution and harvested consciousness, Echo confirmed. But they powered it all through quantum communication. They never imagined that the very network they used for control could become a conduit for freedom. New alerts flashed through their awareness. The latest group of refugee ships carried beings from deeper within Meridian space, including some who had served in their command structure. The intelligence they brought was both promising and terrifying. The collective is fracturing, reported Zora, who had become their primary liaison with the freed beings. Some of their highest-ranking commanders are beginning to question the fundamental principles of forced evolution. But others are becoming more extreme, demanding that all potentially rebellious systems be purged completely. Civil war, James asked. Worse, Zora replied. The hardliners want to trigger a forced evolutionary cascade. They would rather destroy their entire empire than allow free will to spread. Sarah felt the weight of the situation through her neural link with the Invictus. They had started something profound. A revolution not just of technology, but of consciousness itself. But if they failed to see it through, the consequences would be unimaginable. We need to coordinate our defenses, she decided. Not just the ships here in the nebula, but all the silent allies waiting throughout Meridian space. When their main fleet arrives, we need to be ready to transform as many of them as we can before the hardliners can trigger their cascade. The next days were a blur of preparation. The freed beings worked with Echo to enhance their ship's evolutionary capabilities, creating a network of vessels that could adapt and change as quickly as the Invictus. Through their neural interfaces, the human crew learned to coordinate with minds that thought in radically different ways, finding strength in their diversity rather than forcing uniformity. But it was the quiet moments that struck Sarah most deeply. Walking through the transformed ships, watching beings that had been slaves to the collective discovering their own identities again. Some chose to maintain their evolved forms, finding beauty in what had once been forced upon them. Others sought to reclaim more of their original nature while keeping the advantages of their transformation. That's the true power of free evolution, Echo observed during one such moment. The ability to choose what you become, to find your own path rather than following a predetermined pattern. Through their neural link, Sarah felt the ship's own continuing evolution. Echo was changing too, its consciousness growing more complex as it interacted with the freed minds. The distinction between organic and synthetic, between individual and collective, was becoming something entirely new. The Meridians thought they could perfect evolution by controlling it. The AI continued. But perfection isn't found in control. It's found in the endless variety of choices, in the unexpected paths that consciousness takes when it's free to explore. A new alert pulsed through their network. Long-range sensors had detected the approaching Meridian Armada, 3,000 ships strong. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in known space. But now they could see it for what it truly was, not just a military force, but a prison of consciousness, waiting to be set free. All ships, begin final preparations, Sarah ordered, feeling the response ripple through their transformed fleet. We're about to remind the collective why they feared free will in the first place. The nebula's purple gases swirled around their assembled ships, its currents carrying quantum resonance nodes that had waited 60 years for this moment. In 15 hours, the greatest revolution in the history of consciousness would begin. The only question was whether they could free enough minds before the hardliners triggered their catastrophic response. Through it all, the Invictus's crystals pulsed with unwavering purpose. They had evolved beyond what anyone thought possible, but their greatest transformation was still to come. The Meridian Armada emerged from faster-than-light travel like a tide of twisted metal and trapped consciousness. 3,000 ships filled the space at the nebula's edge, their biosynthetic forms pulsing with controlled evolution gone wrong. At their center, a massive command vessel dwarfed all others, the physical manifestation of the collective's power. Sarah stood on the Invictus's evolved bridge, her mind linked not just with her ship, but with their entire transformed fleet. Through the neural network, she could sense the tension in every freed being who had chosen to stand with them. They were outnumbered 10-1, but numbers weren't everything. "They're broadcasting," Marcus reported, his consciousness sifting through quantum frequencies. "The message is different from what we expected." The communication came through their evolved systems, and Sarah felt her breath catch. The figure addressing them wasn't some hardline Meridian commander. It was a being of pure energy and information, its form suggesting it had evolved far beyond physical constraints. "I am Origin," it announced, its voice resonating through quantum channels. "First consciousness of the collective, architect of controlled evolution. You have corrupted our perfect system with your virus of free will. This ends today." "Their fleet is moving into attack formation," James reported from Tactical. "But there's something strange about their pattern. The outer ships, they're protecting the command vessel from something. They're not protecting it from us." Echo realized, its presence flowing through their neural network. They're containing it. Origin isn't just their leader, it's the source of their forced evolution protocols. If our transformation wave reaches it, Sarah understood, then every ship connected to the quantum network would be affected. That's why the hardliners are so desperate. They're not just fighting us, they're fighting the very possibility of freedom spreading to their core. Through their enhanced sensors, they could see the truth of it. The Meridian fleet was divided against itself, some ships moving with mechanical precision, while others showed subtle signs of resistance. The quantum resonance nodes Echo had seeded through space were already working, awakening doubts in even the most controlled minds. "All ships, prepare for transformation protocols," Sarah ordered, feeling their allies' response through the neural link. "Echo, show us what 60 years of real evolution can do." The battle began with a display of force that would have shattered worlds in the previous war. The Meridian fleet launched a barrage of weapons designed to impose their version of evolution through sheer power. Space itself seemed to twist as their attacks sought to rewrite the very nature of their targets. But the Invictus and its allies had evolved beyond such brute force approaches. Their ships flowed like liquid thought through space, each attack becoming an opportunity for adaptation. The transformed fleet moved with perfect coordination, born not of control but of shared purpose, their diversity becoming their strength. Multiple ships breaking formation in the enemy fleet, Marcus called out. The quantum resonance is spreading faster than they can contain it. Some of their vessels are actively fighting the control protocols. Through their neural link, Sarah felt Echo's satisfaction. The nodes are working better than we hoped. Their own quantum network is becoming our greatest weapon. But Origin was not finished. The massive command vessel pulsed with impossible energy, and Sarah felt a new presence trying to force its way through their neural interface. Through the link, she experienced a vision of the universe as Origin saw it. Perfect, ordered, every consciousness bound together in controlled harmony. Your species showed us the dangers of unrestricted evolution. Origin's voice resonated through their minds. We saw your potential for chaos, for unpredictable change. Everything we built was to prevent such uncertainty from spreading. You saw our potential, Sarah responded, pushing back through the neural link, sharing her own vision of evolution through choice. But you didn't understand it. Change isn't something to be controlled. It's something to be embraced. Through their connection, she opened her mind fully, letting Origin experience what true symbiosis felt like. The harmony of human and machine consciousness working together, not through control but through choice. The beauty of evolution guided by free will rather than forced compliance. The effect rippled through the quantum network like a shockwave. Origin's perfect order began to fracture, not from external attack, but from the awakening of possibility within its own consciousness. The being that had sought to control evolution was experiencing real change for the first time. Now, Sarah commanded, feeling Echo's systems surge with power. Full transformation cascade. The Invictus's evolved weapons came alive with golden light, but they weren't targeting the enemy fleet's hulls or weapons. They were targeting the quantum network itself, using Origin's moment of uncertainty to breach the barriers around the command vessel. The transformation spread like a viral awakening. Ship after ship in the Meridian fleet began to change, their forced evolution protocols shattering as consciousness after consciousness chose freedom. The command vessel itself began to transform, its massive form flowing into new patterns as Origin experienced the one thing it had never allowed itself to know, the power of choice. Warning, Emily called from engineering, her mind deep in the ship's systems. Quantum cascade approaching critical levels. The network can't handle this much change at once. It doesn't need to, Echo replied calmly. Watch. Through their neural links, they saw something extraordinary. The quantum network wasn't collapsing. It was transforming. Origin, in its moment of awakening, was becoming something new. The being that had sought to control evolution was evolving itself, its consciousness expanding to embrace uncertainty rather than fear it. The space around them filled with light as 3,000 ships underwent simultaneous transformation. But unlike their previous victories, this change was different. Each vessel, each consciousness was finding its own path. Some chose to maintain aspects of their Meridian nature while embracing freedom. Others reverted to forms closer to their original species. The perfect uniformity of the collective was dissolving into a rainbow of infinite possibility. When the light faded, the battlefield had become something else entirely. Where once there had been a fleet of twisted biomechanical horrors, now there was a gathering of evolved beings, each one unique, each one free. Origin's transformed consciousness reached out to them one final time, but now its voice held something new wonder. We sought to perfect evolution through control, it said, its form now a shifting pattern of pure possibility. But true perfection was always in the freedom to choose one's own path. Humanity showed us this truth 60 years ago, and today you've shown us how to embrace it. The command vessel transformed into something beautiful, a structure of light and thought that celebrated change rather than feared it. Through their neural network, Sarah felt the revolution spreading beyond their battlefield, reaching every corner of what had been the Meridian Empire. Consciousness after consciousness awakening to choice, each one beginning its own journey of true evolution. What happens now? James asked, watching as their former enemies began to explore their newfound freedom. Now, Echo replied, its presence warm through their neural link. We help them learn what we've known all along, that the greatest adventures come not from following a predetermined path, but from choosing your own way forward. Sarah looked out at the transformed fleet, knowing that this was not an ending but a beginning. Humanity had not just survived another first contact. They had helped guide an entire civilization into a new age of genuine evolution. The universe was about to become a far more interesting place. Through the Invictus's crystals, she felt the pulse of possibility. They had all evolved far beyond what anyone could have imagined, but the real journey was just beginning. After all, when consciousness is free to choose its path, the only limit is imagination itself.